Thank you for being with us for this special segment of Capitol Contact pre-General Assembly video with Speaker Howell. With me here is Speaker Howell, who is Speaker of the House and represents the 28th House District, which includes parts of Fredericksburg and Stafford.
Parts of Fredericksburg and Stafford.
Thank you for being here with us.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Dean.
Just talking about some of the huge issues that we're going to be facing in this 215 session.
Yeah.
This has been billed, this session, as the session to deal with ethics.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the top issue that we're going to be dealing with? Or
Well, it's a large issue, I'm sure, and I'm confident that we'll be dealing with it. You remember last year in the 2014 session, a lot of this is in response to the McDonald thing. There's no question about that. Although it's interesting that Governor McDonald was not convicted of any state crimes. It was all federal. But nevertheless, I think we need to tighten up. I think the public wants us to tighten up our ethics laws. And in 2014, we put some caps on the amount that a legislator or elected official, local government official, could receive. We created an advisory committee to give advice to elected officials on different questions that they might have dealing with ethics. We created more transparency, more disclosure. But I think the public wants more. And the governor, as you know, created a commission to come up with some suggestions on ethics reform. We've taken that to heart. I have a group within my caucus that's been meeting for a couple of months now, on and off. And we have a couple of packages that we'll come up with. And I think at the end of the day, we'll make some significant additions to the ethics package.
We've seen several bills that have been put in by House members and probably the other senators, but we really haven't really haven't seen the bills that have come out of the commission yet. Do you think we'll be seeing those closer, maybe tomorrow? But I mean,
I haven't seen them either. As you know, I assign bills to committees, right. And I've been through a couple hundred and haven't seen. I've seen a couple of ethics reform bills. I don't know if they're coming from people that were on the commission or not, but it'll all go into the mix. What we typically do, as you know, I'm assigning all the bills that have to do with ethics to the Courts of Justice Committee, and they'll create a little ad hoc subcommittee that'll look at them all and come up with, probably good points from the different suggestions. And so hopefully we'll be able to get something done there.
Going away from ethics, knowing that there are many other top issues that you're going to be dealing with during the session, can you talk a little bit about some of the issues that your caucus, that the House will be focusing on?
Sure. Well, of course, the budget always sort of takes precedence over everything else. This is the second year of our two-year budget, and typically in the short session we kind of fine-tune differences because of the economy or whatever. And as you know, the economic forecast is pretty grim in Virginia right now. We are estimating a $2.4 billion shortfall. We came back in the fall during the regular special session and addressed a lot of that shortfall. We took about $700 and some million from the rainy day fund and applied that. We did some other cuts. The governor and his amendments has got additional cuts, and basically we have a balanced budget now. The one thing that we insisted on in the fall and today was that we were holding K-12 funding harmless. We don't have any cuts in K-12 funding at this point, and I think we can hold on to that. But it's the economy. When you read the national papers, they're talking about the economy resurging and coming back. But we really haven't seen that in Virginia. And that's a combination of sequestration. I think some of the military cuts. Virginia's always been so blessed, where we'd come out of a recession with a growth of 6, 7, 8% sometimes because of our reliance on the federal government and the military. Now that's working against us, and we had about the 44th or 45th worst recovery of all the states, and we're still seeing it in places like Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. The commercial office space vacancies is significantly higher than it usually is, and these are all kind of warnings that the economy just isn't coming back in Virginia like it should, and we need to prepare for that.
Well, so we may be seeing our neighbors in Maryland and some other states, North Carolina, their economy kind of growing, but here in Virginia, we're still going to be behind the eight ball.
Right, actually Maryland's under the same eight ball. Yeah, I think they're actually doing just a little bit worse than we are because they're pretty reliant on the government as well, not so much the military. And I think what that says, Dean, is that we need to, and the governor has recognized this, that we need to look at the way we attract new businesses and develop the businesses that are here in Virginia, and kind of realize that we can't depend on the federal government forever like we have in the past, and need to branch out into more diverse things like advanced manufacturing or agriculture, things like that.
One of the things that we looked at as counties is looking at the tax preferences that are out there and trying to find a way to create some general fund revenue without cutting local services and cutting dollars
Right.
to localities, coming to localities. You think there will be any effort to scale back or look at some of those tax preferences in this session?
Yeah, I think so. I think that actually there has been a committee, a General Assembly study committee that's been looking at tax incentives and preferences. And they come up with a laundry list, like all of those things, Dean, you know how that goes. It depends on whose ox is getting gored. And
They've all got constituents.
They all got constituents. And you have to make some tough choices. But I think that, for example, I was the patron of the bill years ago that created the transferable tax credit for putting property in preservation easements. That's a significant tax preference that the taxpayers get for doing that. It's been a wildly successful program. We've preserved a lot of land. And I guess the question is, do we need to continue to have all the money? The governor's recommended that we cut the amount of money that we give for those incentives, and I can't disagree with that. So I think that even though it's my bill and my idea initially, well, it wasn't my idea. I never have an original idea. Somebody gave it to me. But I think that those are the kind of things we need to look at.
And we like the idea of K-12 funding, keeping K-12 funding whole this year. I know that in 2016 going forward and looking, we're still going to be behind the eight ball in Virginia with the economy, still looking to make up some revenue. But I hope we can continue to keep those dollars coming into K-12. As local government, this is probably one of our biggest biggest funders.
Yeah.
Things that we fund.
Yeah. No, I think we recognize that. We've tried to keep the funding there, and I know that's a primary concern.
Okay.
And some of the other things that we're doing, again, my caucus has been quite active for the last couple of months. We create these little policy committee groups, and they've been looking at everything from K-12 reform. You may have seen the other day where Tag Reese and Kirk Cox recommended some proposals that they're going to make dealing with SOL, standards of learning, and some other issues like that. I think that those ideas have been well received. We continue to look at ways we can create and help the economy grow, create more jobs. We're talking about trying to create an apprentice school down in Prince George County near the Rolls-Royce plant that will train young men and women to be able to get involved in this advanced manufacturing, which is really using computers as much as anything else. The whole face of manufacturing has changed dramatically from the way I used to picture it. And if you were to tour, for example, the Rolls-Royce plant, it's incredible how technical it is, and the workers have to be trained for that. And so we're working on workforce training in those areas.
It was interesting. I was in reading the House proposal. I noticed that there was a real close-knit relationship with workforce development and K-12.
Yeah.
Trying to make sure that we have those high school graduates really going into those high-tech jobs and getting them that training at the college level or the first year out of high school.
You know, you hear so much about STEM, the science and technology, classes that we need to have in K-12. The kids don't get it if they don't get into math by 5th or 6th grade, it's too late. And we need to do things to develop that. But we also need to develop people that can just do good work, whether it's a mechanic or a computer repairman or whatever. That's a tremendous opportunity for a lot of people that we need to make sure that they have the abilities that they need.
Finally, one last thing, we've read with interest that you have a bill in
Yeah.
to establish a state song in Virginia.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, you know, we haven't had a state song in Virginia for about 28 years. Before I came here, I think the legislature did away with the old state song, Carry Me Back to Old Virginia. And since then, we've been looking for a new state song. And on the Rules Committee, we always have people coming forward with their, it's kind of like the Gong Show. You have really, it's interesting, the different tunes that come through. You know, hip hop state song, or beach music state song, country music state song. And there's a fellow named Bud Robertson, James Robertson, who was a professor at Virginia Tech for 40 years. And he taught Civil War history. He's just an outstanding professor. His classes were the most popular at Tech. And he's quite an experienced author. He's written a lot of books about the Civil War, whatever. And he's a great Virginian, loves Virginia. And he really wanted a good state song. And he loves the tune. We all love the tune, Shenandoah. It's a folk song that all of us know the tune to, and people identify it with Virginia. And he had a lyricist in New York City. I got to know him and talked to him about Virginia, and the fellow wrote the words to the tune of Shenandoah, and it's a beautiful song. It's called Virginia, and I've heard it done by the Richmond Chorale and other people. I think when people hear it, they'll like it. It's a song you can be proud of. It's a song you can sing. It's a song that will haunt, the melody will stay in your mind for a good time. So I'm hopeful that we'll finally be able to get a state song. I believe Bud was telling me only 4 states do not have a state song, Virginia being one of them. And, you know, on the one hand, I know it seems kind of frivolous when to talk about a state song or a state pet or whatever, when you've got a $2.4 billion shortfall. But we're handling that. We can multitask, and I think that the introduction of the state song will be a good help.
Well, we look forward to the Rules Committee and listening to some good tunes.
I'm going to try and get the chorale in there to do it again.
Well, I want to thank you for being with us for this segment, pre-General Assembly session, pre-General Assembly segment of Capital Contact.
Thank you, Dean. I really appreciate what VACo does and all that you do for VACo. They're a good resource.